To Earth Angel channel today, and Divine Masculines. Today we will discuss about the inner uh, inclinations, where we have to decide upon the productivity of our decisions. We would feel responsible for our own thoughts, decisions, and its outcome. Now this we are trying to place in a very scientific manner, and trying to get the threads together to weave into an understanding of some kind of texture, which will lead to a very justified, very rational, divine thinking. Now what is divine thinking? Divine thinking, basically we understand that it is a particular type of ascended thinking. Ascended means it should be very filtered, very correctional, very stable, and the stability should not be it should not be affected by rigidity either, because at times you need to be flexible also. So in other words, we can say it has to be a very balanced behavior. Now balanced behavior definitely arises from a balanced thinking. Now this balanced thinking should be propelled by certain kind of scientific uh, process, scientific stages, scientific way of bringing about the measures that we are planning to. So the scheduling is very important, and that has to be very I would say logical. Scientific here means logical, where we can understand that okay, if this schedule or this plan is contemplated and followed, then this could be the outcome. So there has to be some kind of layout, mind mapping, or cognitive mapping, I would say. Now this cognitive mapping that we can follow for bringing about a good proper decision. This is, let me remind you before we get into the points actually, that this is, we are talking about the divine beings, okay, and divine masculine we are mentioning especially here because, as I told you, they are very burdened with like on one shoulder they have the beast and the other they have the deities. So they are totally in a being pulled apart. So they have too much of burden on their shoulders. But now they need some justification as to whom to support and where to support and when to support, and whom, when, and where not. So these logical thinking strategies would definitely uh, help them to take a stance, because they are divine beings and they are being pulled apart by the devils on one side, and the divine thoughts and attributes are on falling apart on the other side, due to needs and other kind of the needs and necessities and the situation that they are facing. So these, they cannot take the pressure anymore of the circumstances, and that would consequently result into such odds that come by. So here, if you try to put all the circumstances together into a fruitful outcome, you have to follow a particular process. Now in this process, where you're taking the decision of an outcome, normally divine masculine, your attitude would be to start thinking about controlling the situation. And in order to control a situation, you need to control the people around you. And in order to control the people around you, you need to strategize your actions towards them. And sometimes these strategies become very absolute failure, or sometimes it doesn't it goes way than what we have planned. So in such situations, we have this, this process where we can follow a process of strategizing our thoughts. And this process is, I would suggest, I'm very I'm very stern about this ideology, that these things does not occur externally. Even if you might have tried it several times to do it externally, and you would see failure only. So it is better to start this strategy and this control from within you. So now your face must be turned within yourself. You have to start the introspection of this work. Once you begin to introspect, you'll see you have found a lot of outcome, which is a lot of success in your controlling capacity. Not only lot of, I would say that it is 100% successful if you introspect and try to drive and steer everything from within. So first turn to yourself. Now once you have turned to yourself, you have to see the process as into 3 or 4 stages that you have to schedule it. Okay, the first stage would be specification. Now first your work would be to specify a situation, to specify an action or a thought. Once you have specified that this is what I'm about to decide, this thought, this ideology, next stage that you have to step into would be its verification. Now what is verification by dictionary? And next, after verification, what is validation after by the dictionary? Okay, by the dictionary book we see that verification is a process. It's a process of checking for achievement of goals or confirmation about the right or the wrong, which we can term as verification. It also might mean fulfillment of some kind of requirements, and it is verification actually is a static testing. It is, something is existing, you are just trying to verify whether it is existing or not. So it is very limited, hence it is static, and we cannot exceed that limit in case of verification. So verification, I would say, is a very small acumen, a very limited acumen, which will give you a very limited clarity. Limited acumen is equal to limited clarity. Okay, so now after getting this verification of your ideology, of your specification, of your specified selected topic or dash whatever you selected, now you have to, after verification, you have to come to the validation of it. So verifying is not enough. After verifying, you step into the validation. Validation is what? It's a process again of checking the standards. Now after verification, you have understood that this particular thing, right or wrong, exists, but this existence must be validated. Validation hence is the process where the standard of the deed is weighed. Okay, it ensures the higher level requirements that you have to look into, and it checks what we are developing, the content, the quality. So it is actually the qualitative measure. Now you have stepped into where validation is operating, and then you have to understand the product that you are attempting is right, validated, is standardized or not. Now this validation in such a situation, we can term it as a dynamic testing. Okay, so verification becomes a static testing and validation becomes a dynamic testing. Now we will see what kind of processes, what kind of readings, what kind of I would say what kind of writings, what kind of contents you could bring under the headings of your verification. So when you have first of all reviewed something, reviewing is a kind of verification. When you are walking through something, you're feeling through, going through, walking through, undergoing something, that is also verification. When you're introspecting within yourself, you're asking questions and trying to find answers within yourself, verification. And then action checking, you're also trying to check out your answer, actions, that what I did and what I would do and what I had done, what kind of actions have I done. You're trying to get those answers. In such a situation, you can call it verification. You're verifying your actions. Specifications are also kind of verifications. When you are specifying something, okay, you're specifying that, okay, this could be as such. This can come under the first stage of verification. Okay. Now, conformed verification, of course, that is to be required. Now, what is the goal of verification? Tell me, the goal of verification, why do you verify things? What is its purpose and goals and aims? The basic goal of verification is application. Okay, after verifying, you have to apply certain thoughts of yours to an action. You have to, like, it is just kind of a software architecture that you've prepared. After preparing that, you have to understand the application of it, isn't it? You have to understand the product specification of it and how you're going to apply it. Now, prior to validation, what do you have? Prior to validation and after specification starts the verification. So see, validation would be the last stage. It has its own internal process also, validation, but overall validation is the last stage. And prior to validation comes verification. Prior to verification or before verification, the first stage begins with specification. So I hope I'm clear. Specification, verification, and then validation. Now, validation is what? Now, you see, validation is a process where you have to detect your errors. It is a black box testing. What kind of dark or undone or lacunas that you are looking to, those are all black box testings, are all validations. Okay, they are dynamic. You have to bring change in them. You have to take action upon them. Okay, now you will test them for the work product. When you are working out some action, the product that you are getting, the outcome that you are bringing after doing such an action, that is going to be your testing over there through validation. The executed work and its quality, its standard, what have you committed, that is known as validated work. And this validation finds out about 20 to 30% of the defects of your actions if you validate it. But if you go for specification will after specific, if you go for specification, at least say about 10% of your doubt is cleared. That you have now, from generalized thinking, you have come to a specified point. Now 10%, 20% clarity has come. After that starts the verification part. You have the specified ideology is going to now be verified by you. Now, during this cognitive stage, you are already getting rid of 50 to 60% of the defects by verifying your. So here you have already completed 70% of the work, of your ideology, whether you're on the correct path or some doubtful cases taking place. Then what you're doing is validating it by 20 to 30% of defects removal. This is how the process is going on, or should go on within your mental decisions. And verifications might as well change from person to person. It is always that way. It's about the process, the standard, and the guidelines that you're following. That is known as verification. What process you're going to follow, what standard you will decide upon, what sort of a guideline you have prepared for your verification attitudes. This is important for you to ponder upon and come to a decision in this stage, in the middle stage. And then you have to start validating it. Okay? Validation, as I told you, is a standard about the output of yours, outcome of your behavior, the disposition that you've brought, the actions that you've taken, and after the necessary actions, the outcome that you are in. That is known as the validation. But validation maintenance stage is also important. After you have validated that, okay, this would be the best, I have come to a decision 100%. This validation maintenance is also required. Once you have validated, it might change. The validity might change after some time. What you saw at that moment, that valid standard would deteriorate. It might as well dwindle. So validation maintenance must be aimed also. Now this stage must assure about no changes, no deviations, no failures or modifications to the product or the decision or the outcome that you have resulted into. Okay? And it does not need any kind of re-verification or revalidation. This is the maintenance. If you see that a revalidation is required or a re-verification is also being called for, in that case, it is the validation maintenance is not taking place. It has not taken place. Once the maintenance is there, that means whatever outcome you had decided upon is going on, is carrying on. There is no ensuing danger, there is no ensuing change or ups and downs further to bother that decision. There comes the maintenance aspect. And this maintenance or aspect of your verification and your revalidation of your decisions, decision making, the cognitive decisions, everything, your behavioral decisions, divine masculine, you have to understand and fulfill it through validation protocols. This protocol is very, very necessary for divine beings, because this is where they vary from the karmics. Karmics don't have any protocols. They create their own comfortable life, however evil it might be. But divine beings cannot do that. They are warring against the evil, and most of the time might as well they fight against their own comfort also. They're uncomfortable, but still they are putting up the fight. So here comes the difference, and the validation protocol is very important for divine feminines and divine masculines, because this is where they differ. They are validated. Their thoughts, their actions are supposed to be validated, which is why we are the nomenclature of divine masculine over here. So this divine protocol has to be planned by you. It is suggested that you make out a written plan about how you validate your conducts, including your test parameters. You must test yourself, and those parameters Parameters must be, characteristics must be laid down in written format if possible. Production and packaging also is important for you. How will you package your behavior? How will you bring out the outcome? What sort of outcome? And this outcome is to be dreamt of through what sort of a packaged behavior, what sort of labeled behavior. These things need very deep thinking and considerations, and then you have to decide upon the points of acceptable test results. You have to understand that if these behaviors are done by me under these labels or these packages, then this would be the acceptable outcome test result, or unacceptable also it could be. So here comes your validation protocol, and this protocol cannot be followed unless you really write it down and contemplate it in a written form. Perhaps past, present and future, or present and future, both would be the ingredients to be decided upon over here. Then you have different types of validations also, like you see prospective validation, we can say concurrent validation, we can talk about retrospective validations, and we can also talk about the revalidation. So these 4 types of validations, what I see that we have to decide upon. Prospective validation is what? Something which could be taking place after this validation, which is about to be received by us. It's a prospective one. And concurrent one is that is going on, that your running behavior. What are you doing now? What are you performing? What sort of consciousness are you utilizing now? Where are you? What deed? What is the standard of your work that you're doing, putting in? That is concurrent validation. And then you come to the retrospective. What did you do? What had you touched? Where did you fall? Where did you rise? So these are retrospectives. And then after considering all the 3, you have to decide upon your revalidation. Definitely you will have to reform it if there is any touch-up required in that. This involves a series of activities, of course, if you want to reformation, and occurrences which will have to be redone over the life cycle. In such a case, like if you are unable to revalidate yourself, you have to repeat cycles. So here we will follow the PPQ formula. PPQ. PPQ is protocol and performance qualification. Now, protocol and performance. You have to first lay out your protocols, and then according to the protocol you have to perform, and then you have to qualify. Protocol execution and its report. Continued process verification. Continuously process verification is important. Protocol execution is extremely important, significant, and its report, whether you have done it, how you have done it, critical report I would suggest to yourself through introspective office work of yours. And then the goal of 3rd validation stage, that you come over here at this moment. Now all this time we were discussing the validation. Now validation has 3 phases, you see. First it is about the product standard, then it's maintenance. First is the product standard and maintenance, then you have the protocols there, and then after the protocol you will last in the end come to the 3rd validation stage of gains. This is where you understand that whatever validation you had decided upon as validated ideology is about to bring some gain of your ongoing assurance. Gains of ongoing assurance of the process to have remained in a state of control. Gains to have understood that there is an ongoing assurance about the process that you're conducting of validations, and this confirms to you that it has remained in a state of control, what you've done. This homogeneity within a batch and consistency between the batches of your work, between the group of the teams, the I would say the clutter of ideas that you have, the actions that you've taken, these goals of process of validation activities must be maintained with homogeneity. So consistency and homogeneity are two important things in the process of validation. So this is how you have to contemplate your outcome, that if you have behaved this way, this would be the outcome. If you have specified your ideology this way, then you have verified it, and then you have validated it through the different phases of its process, validation process, then you're surely going to be able to maintain your divine capabilities, not giving into short-term satisfactions. Instead, validation and proper planning of the process of validation. Hope this will help you, and wishing you a very, very happy and a very peaceful night's sleep with this information. And divine masculines, good night. See you. See you. See you.